That single truth, if burned deep enough into your mind, has the power to override a lifetime of regret, shame, fear, and hesitation. Because you weren't born broken. You weren't born afraid. You weren't born confused or hesitant or bitter. You were born with a canvas, and the world began to paint on it. They told you who you were, what you could do, what you should want, and somewhere along the way, you stopped painting for yourself. You believed the noise. You believed the labels. But listen closely, because this matters more than anything else right now. The past is not proof of your future. Where you've been is not who you are. What they said is not what you have to believe. You are not your failures. You are not your trauma. You are not your broken home, your bank balance, your missed chances, or your worst mistakes. You are potential. And that potential begins the moment you reclaim your ability to imagine something greater. Einstein said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." Not because knowledge doesn't matter, but because knowledge is limited. It's a record of what already exists. But imagination, that's where possibility lives. And possibility is where your future begins. The people who change their lives don't do it because they had better tools. They had a better vision. They didn't wait to become someone else. They decided right where they were to become something more, not in the distant future, but now. They got brutally honest. They looked at the mirror and said, "This isn't who I want to be, but it is who I've allowed myself to become." And in that honesty, they found the seed of freedom. Because nothing changes until you take ownership. Not guilt, not shame, not self-hate. Ownership. That's the moment you stop blaming your childhood. That's the moment you stop making excuses about the economy, the government, the algorithm, or the people who left. That's the moment you realize, I am still the painter. The world may have given you brushes soaked in darkness. It may have thrown colors of doubt, fear, and trauma at your canvas. But your hand is still holding the brush. And what you paint from this moment on is yours. That's the first step of freedom. The decision to no longer be defined by yesterday. Think about it. Einstein wasn't celebrated for repeating what had been done. He was hated, ridiculed, ignored, because he imagined differently. He saw the universe not as it was accepted, but as it could be understood. He reimagined time, space, matter, and through that reimagining, humanity itself was expanded. So why do you let your past define your possibility? Why do you keep quoting your old pain like it's scripture? You've been building a temple around your wounds, worshiping limitations that were handed to you by people who didn't know any better. But possibility begins when you walk away from the altar of who you used to be, when you burn the script, when you say, enough, I'm done playing this version of myself. Because greatness does not come to the one who waits. It comes to the one who decides to act, decides to speak, decides to believe again. And that belief must come before the proof. That's what they don't teach you in school. That's what they don't say on the motivational posters. They want you to wait until it's safe, until it's guaranteed, until the risk is gone. But possibility is not safe. It never was. The Wright brothers didn't know their machine would fly. They believed it could. Disney didn't know people would come to his theme park. He believed they would. Jim Carrey didn't know he'd become a household name. He just believed so strongly he wrote himself a $10 million check when he had nothing. So what makes you think you need certainty before you begin? You don't. You need vision. You need the courage to act before the evidence arrives. That's how you become your possibility. By refusing to keep living in the residue of your past. The greatest lie you were ever sold was that who you were determines who you'll always be. It doesn't. You are not your past. You are your possibility. And the future is listening. So speak, move, build, decide, because the next chapter isn't written yet, and it's yours to write. Now listen closely, because this is where most people stop. This is a threshold where old identities scream loudest, where the gravitational pull of comfort tightens its grip. You'll feel it, the urge to go back, to shrink, to believe that maybe, just maybe, staying small is safer. But that voice, that isn't truth. That's conditioning. Every breakthrough begins at the border of fear. And fear doesn't mean stop. Fear means stretch. It means you're standing in the exact place transformation begins. Einstein once said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." And that applies not just to science, but to life. You can't create a bold new reality with the same story that kept you small. You must outgrow your thoughts to outgrow your limits. You don't need more answers. You need a deeper question, a new lens. Not, what if I fail? But, what if I rise? What if I win? What if this is the moment I become who I was born to be? Because the most dangerous thing isn't risk. It's regret. It's waking up years from now, knowing you had the fire but chose the fear. Knowing you had the voice but kept it quiet. Knowing you had the dream but buried it beneath approval, fear, and excuses. You can't afford to let that be your story. This life, it's not a rehearsal. This moment, it's not small. It's everything. The version of you haven't met, yet is waiting on the other side of belief. Not belief in the world, belief in you. So today, right now, take your place behind the brush. Pick up your courage. Choose your colors. And paint like your life depends on it. Because it does.